What happens when Hollywood's most outspoken tough guy meets daytime television's sweetheart, and things go completely sideways? Well, you're about to find out, because Mark Wahlberg just got kicked off the Kelly Clarkson show after a confrontation that nobody saw coming. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment, because this story is absolutely wild. The tension was thick from the moment Mark Wahlberg walked onto that familiar set. Kelly Clarkson, usually beaming with her signature warmth, seemed unusually reserved as she welcomed him to the show. Something was already off, and anyone paying attention could feel it in the air. "Mark, welcome back to the show," Kelly said, her voice carrying just a hint of something that wasn't quite her usual enthusiasm. "It's always interesting having you here." Mark settled into his chair, that familiar Boston swagger evident even in his posture. "Yeah, well, interesting is one word for it. Kelly, I gotta say, I wasn't sure I'd be back after some of the things that have been said." The audience stirred slightly. This wasn't the typical celebrity banter they were used to. Kelly's smile tightened just a fraction. "Oh well, you know how it is in this business. People talk, rumors spread. But hey, that's why we have you here today, right? To set the record straight? Set the record straight." Mark's voice took on an edge that made the studio audience lean forward. "Kelly, with all due respect, I think you and I both know this isn't about setting any records straight. This is about what you said last week." Kelly's composure wavered for just a moment. The cameras kept rolling, capturing every micro-expression. "Mark, I think maybe we should focus on your new project. Tell us about the film you're promoting." Nah. Mark waved his hand dismissively. "We're not doing that dance, Kelly. You brought me on here, knowing full well what this was going to be about. You want to talk about my new movie? Fine. But first, let's address the elephant in the room." The studio fell silent, except for the hum of the cameras. Kelly's producer could be seen off camera, making frantic gestures, but Kelly pressed on. "Mark, I really think we should keep this light and fun for our viewers." Light and fun. Mark's laugh was anything but amused. "Kelly, you called me out on national television. You questioned my integrity, my work ethic, my commitment to my craft. And now you want to keep it light and fun." Kelly's face flushed slightly. "I was sharing my honest opinion about the industry and the challenges actors face. I never made it personal. Never made it personal." Mark's voice rose just enough to make everyone in the studio tense. "You said, and I quote, that some actors coast on their reputation instead of actually putting in the work. You said some people get roles because of who they know, not because of their talent. And then you looked directly into that camera and said it was disappointing when established actors phone it in." The audience was completely silent now. Kelly shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Mark, I was speaking generally about the industry. I wasn't targeting anyone specifically. Come on, Kelly, don't insult my intelligence, and don't insult your viewers' intelligence. Everyone knew exactly who you were talking about. The internet sure figured it out fast enough." Kelly's professional mask was starting to slip. "Mark, I respect your work. I've always respected your work. But I also think it's important to have honest conversations about the industry. Honest conversations." Mark leaned forward in his chair. "You want honest? Let's be honest. You've been coasting on that American Idol victory for over 20 years. You think hosting a talk show makes you some kind of industry expert? You think you can sit there and judge actors who've been grinding in this business since before you could carry a tune?" The gasp from the audience was audible. Kelly's eyes flashed with anger. "Excuse me, I've worked incredibly hard to build my career. I've earned every opportunity I've gotten." "Have you, though?" Mark's voice was dangerously quiet now. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you won a singing competition and then got handed a television career. Meanwhile, actors like me are out there at 4 a.m, putting in 16-hour days, doing our own stunts, learning new skills for every role." Kelly's hands were visibly shaken now. "Mark, you're being incredibly disrespectful. This is my show, your show." Mark stood up slightly, his voice getting louder. "Kelly, this is a studio that pays you to sit in a chair and ask softball questions. Don't act like you built this empire with your bare hands." "I think we need to take a break," Kelly said, looking off camera toward her producer. No breaks," Mark said firmly. "You wanted to have this conversation, Kelly. You started this. When you decided to come for me on television. Now we're going to finish it." Kelly's voice was tight with controlled anger. I never came for you specifically, Mark, but if the shoe fits, Mark's laugh was harsh. Kelly, let me tell you something about shoes fitting. You've been wearing the same pair for 2 decades. You think because you can hit a high note and smile pretty for the cameras that you understand what it takes to be a real performer. The tension in the studio was palpable. Kelly's producer was now visible on camera, clearly trying to get her attention to wrap this up, but Kelly was too far gone to back down now. A real performer. Kelly's voice was rising. Mark, I've sold millions of albums. I've won Grammys. I've built a multimedia empire. What exactly have you done lately, besides trade on your reputation from movies you made 20 years ago? And there it was. The line had been crossed. Mark's face went completely stone cold, and anyone who knew anything about his reputation knew that this was not a good sign. What have I done lately? Mark's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow felt more threatening than any shouting. Kelly, I've been working. Real work. Not sitting behind a desk asking celebrities about their breakfast routine. Kelly's face went completely red. Are you seriously going to sit there and minimize what I do? I connect with millions of people every single day. I provide comfort, entertainment, and genuine conversation to families across America. Conversation, Mark scoffed. Kelly, you read questions off cards written by a team of writers. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny and pretend to care about stories that bore you to tears. That's not genuine. That's performance. Everything is performance. Mark, that's what entertainment is. Kelly's voice cracked slightly. But at least I don't pretend to be something I'm not. At least I don't walk around acting like I'm some kind of method actor when everyone knows you play the same character in every single movie. The audience was completely frozen. This had gone way past uncomfortable and into the realm of television history. Mark's jaw clenched visibly. The same character. Mark's voice was dangerously quiet again. Kelly, I've played cops, soldiers, athletes, fathers, criminals. I've learned to fight, to box, to speak different languages. I've gained weight, lost weight, changed my entire physical appearance for roles. What have you done? Put on different colored dresses. Kelly slammed her hand on the arm of her chair. That's enough. You don't get to come onto my show and disrespect me like this. I've been nothing but professional with you. Professional. Mark laughed bitterly. Kelly, you ambushed me on national television last week. You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted to take a shot at me, thinking I wouldn't respond. Well, surprise, I'm responding. I was having a conversation about the industry. Kelly's voice was shaking with anger now. I was talking about the responsibility that comes with success, about how some people in this business forget where they came from. Where I came from? Mark's voice exploded. Kelly, I came from the streets of Boston. I came from nothing. I built everything I have from scratch. You came from a talent show and got handed a recording contract. Don't you dare lecture me about where I came from. Kelly stood up from her chair, her composure completely gone. I earned everything I have. I worked my way up from nothing to... I grew up in a small town in Texas with no money and no connections. And then you got on a TV show and became a millionaire overnight. Mark shot back, also standing. I spent years doing whatever it took to get roles. I worked construction. I worked in restaurants. I did whatever I had to do to survive while chasing my dreams. Oh, please. Kelly's voice was pure fury now. You act like you're some kind of self-made man. But everyone knows you got your start because of your connections with your brother and the music industry. You didn't climb any ladders, Mark. You had a shortcut that hit a nerve. Mark's face went completely cold. My brother, you want to bring family into this, Kelly. Let's talk about family. Let's talk about how you use your kids as props for your show. Let's talk about how you parade your personal life for ratings, don't you? Dare. Kelly's voice was shaking with rage. Don't you dare bring my children into this. They have nothing to do with this conversation. They have everything to do with it, Mark fired back. You built your entire brand on being America's sweetheart mom, and now you want to throw stones at other people's careers. You think because you cry on cue and hug your guests that you're some kind of saint. Kelly's producer was now frantically waving from off-camera, clearly trying to get them to stop, but both Kelly and Mark were way past the point of listening to anyone. I am genuine with my emotions, Kelly screamed. I don't hide behind some tough guy persona like you do. I show people who I really am. Who you really are. Mark's voice dripped with disdain. Kelly, you're a manufactured personality. You're a product created by record labels and television networks. You're about as real as a $3 bill. And you're a has-been who can't accept that his best days are behind him. Kelly shot back. You're so desperate to stay relevant that you'll pick fights with talk show hosts. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark stared at Kelly for a long moment, his face completely expressionless. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. Has been. Mark repeated slowly. Kelly, I'm still getting offered major roles in major films. I'm still making millions of dollars per picture. I'm still relevant because I'm still working, still grinding, still proving myself every single day. You're sitting behind a desk asking celebrities about their favorite recipes. Kelly's voice was shaking with a mixture of rage and hurt. I have built something meaningful. I have a platform that reaches millions of people. I make a difference. In people's lives every single day, you make a difference. Mark's laugh was cruel. Kelly, your background noise for housewives, folding laundry. Your elevator music for people waiting in doctor's offices. You're not making a difference. You're just filling time. That was the final straw. Kelly's eyes filled with tears of pure fury. Get out. Get out of my studio right now. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Your studio. Mark's voice was mocking. Kelly, this isn't your studio. This is NBC's studio. You're just renting the chair. Kelly turned toward her producer, her voice breaking. I want him off my set right now. Get security. Get him out of here. Mark was already moving toward the edge of the set. Don't worry, Kelly. I'm leaving. But not because you're kicking me out. I'm leaving because I have better things to do than waste my time with someone who's delusional about their own importance. You're banned, Kelly screamed after him. You're banned from this show. You'll never be welcome back here. Mark paused at the edge of the set and turned back to face her. Kelly, that's not a threat. That's a favor. I wouldn't come back to this joke of a show if you paid me. The cameras were still rolling as Mark walked off the set, leaving Kelly standing alone, shaking with rage and humiliation. The audience sat in stunned silence, not sure whether to applaud, boo, or just sit quietly and pretend they hadn't witnessed one of the most brutal confrontations in daytime television history. The studio audience remained frozen as security personnel appeared from the wings, though Mark was already making his way toward the exit. Kelly stood in the center of the set, her chest heaving, trying to regain some semblance of composure for the cameras that were still capturing every moment. Ladies and gentlemen, Kelly's voice wavered as she attempted to address the audience. I apologize for what you just witnessed. This is not the kind of show we run here. But Mark wasn't finished. He stopped halfway off the set and turned back. Around his face, set in stone. You know what, Kelly? You want to apologize to your audience. Apologize for wasting their time with this fake positivity garbage you peddle every single day. Kelly's face went pale. Mark, please just leave. This has gone far enough, has it? Mark stepped back toward the center of the set because I don't think it has. You started this whole thing by questioning my professionalism, my work ethic, my dedication to my craft. You did it on national television, thinking you could hide behind your sweet little talk show host persona. The security guards hesitated, clearly unsure whether to intervene or let this play out. Kelly looked desperately toward her producer, who was making frantic cutting motions across his throat. I never attacked you personally, Kelly said, her voice barely above a whisper. I was making a general observation about the industry. General observation? Mark's voice rose again. Kelly, you've been in this business long enough to know that there are no general observations. Everything is personal. Everything is about reputation. And you tried to damage mine. Kelly's hands were shaking visibly now. Mark, I respect your work. I've always respected your work. But I also think it's important to have honest conversations about excellence and effort in entertainment. Honest conversations about excellence. Mark's laugh was bitter. Kelly, you want to talk about excellence? Let's talk about the excellence of showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. Let's talk about the excellence of constantly challenging yourself, taking on roles that scare you, working with directors who push you to your limits. I do challenge myself, Kelly's voice cracked. Every single day, I challenge myself to be better, to connect with people, to make their lives a little brighter. Making their lives brighter. Mark shook his head. Kelly, That's not challenging yourself. That's just showing up and being pleasant. That's the bare minimum of what you get paid to do. Kelly's eyes filled with tears, but her voice grew stronger. You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea what it takes to do this job. To be vulnerable in front of millions of people every single day. To open your heart and share your life with strangers. Vulnerable. Mark's voice was incredulous. Kelly, you're not vulnerable. You're calculated. Every tear, every laugh, every moment of supposed spontaneity is carefully crafted by a team of producers and writers. You're not sharing your life. You're selling a version of it. Kelly wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. That's not true. My emotions are real. My connections with my guests are real. My love for my audience is real. Your love for your audience is real. Mark stepped closer to her. Kelly, you love your audience the way a salesman loves his customers. They're a means to an end. They're ratings numbers and advertising revenue. That's enough. Kelly's voice exploded with renewed fury. You don't get to come into my house and tell me how I feel about my work and my audience. You don't get to minimize what I've built here. Your house. Mark gestured around the studio. Kelly, this isn't your house. This is a television studio, owned by a corporation. You're an employee, just like everyone else here. The difference is, you've convinced yourself that you're something more. Kelly's face was streaked with tears now, but her voice was steady. I am something more. I'm a person who cares about people, who tries to make a difference in their lives, who uses my platform for good. What do you use yours for, Mark? What do you contribute to the world besides playing pretend for money? Mark's face went completely serious. I contribute honesty, Kelly. I contribute authenticity. When people see me on screen, they see someone who's actually lived, who's actually struggled, who's actually earned his place. They don't see a manufactured personality designed to sell products. Manufactured personality, Kelly's voice was barely controlled rage. I have been through more real-life struggles than you can imagine. I have faced rejection, heartbreak, divorce, financial problems, family issues. I have lived, Mark. I have earned every single thing I have. Have you, though? Mark's voice was quiet, but cutting. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been protected by an industry that wanted to keep you sweet and safe and marketable. You've never had to really fight for anything. Kelly stared at him for a long moment, her chest rising and falling rapidly. When she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. Get out of my studio, Mark. Get out now and never come back. Mark nodded slowly. Gladly. But Kelly, when you're sitting here tomorrow, doing your next show, asking some celebrity about their workout routine or their favorite vacation spot, remember this conversation. Remember that there are people in this industry who actually care about the work, who actually respect the craft, who actually deserve the platform they've been given. He turned toward the exit, then paused one final time, and Kelly. When the ratings for this episode come in, and they're probably going to be the highest you've had in years, remember that it wasn't your fake charm or your scripted questions that made it happen. It was real conflict, real emotion, real television, something you clearly don't understand. Mark walked off the set without another word, leaving Kelly standing alone in front of her shocked audience and her still rolling cameras. The silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity before Kelly finally managed to speak. We're going to take a break, she said quietly, her voice completely drained. We'll be right back. But everyone in that studio knew that nothing would ever be quite the same after what they had just witnessed. The mask had slipped, the facade had cracked, and daytime television had just experienced one of its most brutal and unforgettable moments. The confrontation between Mark Wahlberg and Kelly Clarkson had ended with his dramatic exit, but the impact of their heated exchange would be felt long after the cameras stopped rolling. It was a reminder that behind all the polish and professionalism of television, real people with real emotions and real conflicts were still capable of creating moments of genuine, unfiltered drama. What do you think really triggered this explosive confrontation between two of entertainment's biggest personalities? Subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments below what you think was the real issue behind this incredible clash.